Captain Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched the stars bend around them as they dropped out of hyperspace. The massive warship shuddered slightly as its 3-kilometer-long hull adjusted to normal space. Around her, the bridge crew worked at their stations with quiet focus. The Liberty was humanity's greatest achievement, and Lisa felt the weight of that responsibility every day. "Hyperspace exit complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Maya Patel from the communications station. Her voice carried the slight accent of her Indian heritage, but her English was perfect like all the crew members. Maya was young at 29, but had already proven herself as one of the best communication specialists in the Earth fleet. Lisa nodded and looked at the main screen. They had expected to find an empty solar system around the star Kepler 442. The planets here were supposed to be lifeless rocks, suitable for human colonization. Earth needed new worlds, and this system had looked perfect from their long-range scans. "Dr. Clark, what are you seeing on sensors?" Lisa asked the chief science officer. Dr. Amanda Clark was bent over her instruments with her blonde hair tied back in a practical ponytail. At 38, she had dedicated her life to studying alien life, even though none had ever been found until now. Amanda looked up with wide eyes. "Captain, I am reading massive energy signatures from the 4th planet. These readings are not natural. Something built these structures, and they are still active." Her voice carried excitement and fear in equal measure. Commander Kate Sullivan moved closer to Lisa's command chair. Kate was the head of security and had spent years in special forces before joining the Liberty crew. At 42, she had seen enough combat to know when trouble was coming. "Captain, those energy readings are stronger than anything we can produce. If there are aliens here, they have technology far beyond ours." Lisa felt her heart rate increase, but kept her voice steady. "Maya, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we have found signs of alien technology. Amanda, give me everything you can about those energy signatures." The next few minutes passed in tense silence as the crew worked. The Liberty's advanced sensors swept the system and found more surprises. There were not just buildings on the 4th planet, but also several large objects in space that could only be ships. The technology signatures were unlike anything in human databases. "Captain," Amanda called out with strain in her voice, "I am detecting multiple different energy patterns. This is not one alien species. There are at least 3 distinct technology types in this system." Before Lisa could respond, every alarm on the bridge began screaming. The ship's artificial intelligence system, called Oracle, spoke in its calm female voice. "Alert all stations. Unknown scanning beams detected. Multiple vessels approaching from various vectors. Recommend immediate defensive posture." "Shields up," Lisa ordered. "All weapon systems online, but do not target anything unless I give the order. Maya, try to establish communication on all frequencies." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Liberty's quantum shields came online with a low hum that could be felt through the deck plates. The massive plasma cannons that lined the ship's hull powered up but remained pointed away from the approaching contacts. Then something impossible happened. Every sensor on the Liberty went completely silent. The screens that had been showing energy readings and contact positions went blank. The scanning equipment that had been humming with activity fell quiet. Even the basic navigation sensors stopped working. "What just happened?" Lisa demanded, but Amanda was staring at her instruments in shock. "Captain, all sensors are offline. Not damaged, just completely inactive. Something is blocking every scanner we have, but I cannot detect what is doing it." The bridge fell into an eerie quiet. The only sounds were the basic life support systems and the quiet breathing of the crew. Lisa had been in space for 20 years and had never experienced anything like this. It was as if the Liberty had suddenly gone blind and deaf. Maya suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Captain, I am receiving a transmission, audio and visual on an unknown frequency. They are speaking English." "Put it on screen," Lisa ordered. The main display flickered to life, showing the interior of what was clearly an alien ship. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Standing in the center of the image was a figure that looked almost human, but clearly was not. She was tall and elegant, with silver hair that seemed to move on its own. Her ears came to sharp points, and her eyes were a deep violet color that seemed to glow slightly. She wore robes that appeared to be made of starlight itself, and carried herself with the confidence of someone used to being in command. "Greetings. Primitive humans," the figure said in perfect English, though her voice had a musical quality that no human could match. "I am High Commander Lirelai Starweaver of the Elvish Imperium. We have been watching your species for some time, and are quite amused that you have finally managed to reach the stars." Lisa stepped forward, though she knew the alien could not see her. "This is Captain Lisa Morgan of the Earthship Liberty. We come in peace and request permission to enter this system." Lirelai smiled, and it was both beautiful and slightly condescending. "Oh, you sweet little creatures. You do not request permission to enter this system. You are already here uninvited in ships that barely qualify as space-worthy. The fact that you survived hyperspace travel at all is impressive for such a young species." "We did not know this system was inhabited," Lisa replied, trying to keep her voice diplomatic. "We are explorers seeking new worlds for our people." "Of course you did not know," Lirelai said with what might have been affection. "Your sensors are so primitive they could not detect our cities from your home system. We have been watching Earth since your ancestors discovered fire. You humans are quite entertaining in your own chaotic way." Behind Lirelai, other figures moved in the crystal chamber. They all had the same pointed ears and ethereal beauty, but each had different hair colors and clothing styles. Lisa realized she was looking at an entire alien crew, and they all seemed to be female. "High Commander," Lisa said formally, "we would like to establish diplomatic relations between our species. Perhaps we could meet in person to discuss this properly." Lirelai's laugh was like silver bells ringing. "Diplomatic relations? Oh my, dear primitive captain. You have no idea what you have stumbled into. This system belongs to the Galactic Confluence, and humans are not members. In fact, humans did not even know the Confluence existed until this moment." The transmission ended, and the screen went dark. Lisa stood in the silence of her bridge and realized that everything humanity thought they knew about the galaxy had just changed forever. The silence on the Liberty's bridge stretched for long seconds after the transmission ended. Lisa felt the weight of first contact settling on her shoulders like a heavy blanket. Everything humanity had dreamed about regarding meeting alien life had just become reality, and it was nothing like they had expected. "Captain," Maya said quietly, "I am receiving another transmission. Same source but different sender." "Put it through," Lisa ordered. This time, the screen showed a different section of the crystal ship. The figure who appeared was clearly another elf, but younger-looking than the High Commander. She had long auburn hair and wore what appeared to be a uniform made of some kind of flexible metal. Her violet eyes held curiosity rather than condescension. "Human Captain, I am scientist Aliana Moonwhisper of the research vessel Eternal Grace," the elf said. Her voice was warmer than her commander's had been. "I have been studying your ship's energy patterns, and I must say your engineering is quite fascinating, primitive but creative in ways we have not seen for centuries." Dr. Clark stepped forward. "This is Dr. Amanda Clark, Chief Science Officer of the Liberty. We would be honored to share scientific knowledge with your people." Aliana's eyes brightened with interest. "A female scientist? How refreshing. Most species we encounter have their females focused on other pursuits. Your technology signatures suggest you are still using chemical rockets and nuclear fusion. How did you achieve faster-than-light travel with such basic systems?" Amanda glanced at Lisa, who nodded permission to continue. "We developed a new form of space-folding technology. Instead of trying to go faster than light, we bend space around our ships to create shortcuts through higher dimensions." "Remarkable," Aliana said, leaning closer to her own instruments. "You achieved dimensional manipulation without understanding quantum harmonics or ethereal resonance. It should not be possible, but your ship is clearly here, so you have succeeded somehow." A new voice interrupted from off-screen. "Aliana, you are not supposed to be talking to the primitives without permission." Another elf moved into view, this one wearing armor that seemed to be made of pure energy. She was shorter than the others, but carried herself like a warrior. Her dark hair was braided with what looked like tiny stars. "Captain Seraphina Dawnblade," Aliana said with slight annoyance. "These humans have achieved something we thought impossible. Their crude methods somehow work better than our models predicted." Seraphina looked at the human bridge crew with obvious skepticism. "They are barely evolved primates who got lucky with one invention. Their ship is held together with metal plates and chemical bonds. One good plasma blast would turn it to vapor." Lisa felt her temper rise, but kept her voice level. Captain Dawnblade, we may be new to space travel, but we are not primitives. Humanity has survived and thrived on a dangerous world by learning to adapt and overcome challenges. Adapt, Serafina said with a snort. You have been in space for what, 50 of your years? We have been traveling between stars since before. Your species learned to use tools. What could you possibly teach us about survival? Before Lisa could respond, Amanda spoke up. How long has your technology been the same? When was the last time your people invented something completely new? The question seemed to catch both elves off guard. Eliana looked thoughtful, while Serafina's expression hardened. Our technology is perfected, Serafina said finally. We do not need to change what already works perfectly. But that is exactly the problem, Amanda continued with growing excitement. Perfect systems cannot improve. We humans are always changing and learning because we know we are not perfect yet. Every failure teaches us something new. Eliana was nodding slowly. When did we last create something entirely new rather than improving existing designs? I cannot remember a time in my 300 years of life when we invented rather than refined. 300 years, Maya whispered, and Lisa realized the implications. These elves lived far longer than humans, which meant their society could become set in its ways for centuries or millennia. High Commander Lyralay's voice came from off-screen. Serafina, Eliana, return to your stations. We will dock with the human vessel so I can meet their captain in person. Perhaps these primates will prove more interesting than I initially thought. The transmission ended, and Maya immediately spoke. Up. Captain, I am detecting a massive ship approaching our position. It just appeared out of nowhere right next to us. Through the bridge windows, Lisa could see an impossible sight. The elvish ship was easily 10 times the size of the Liberty, but it moved with the grace of a living creature. The hull seemed to be made of the same crystal material she had seen in their transmissions, but it was alive with flowing patterns of light. No energy signatures, Amanda reported with wonder in her voice. Their ship is not using any form of propulsion I can detect, but it is moving and maneuvering perfectly. It is like they are swimming through space rather than flying. Captain, Kate said quietly. Their weapon systems are completely unknown. I cannot identify any gun ports or missile tubes, but that ship could probably destroy us without breaking stride. We are completely outmatched in terms of technology. Lisa nodded but felt a strange calm settling over her. Then we will have to rely on what we do best. Maya, prepare the main docking bay. Kate, select an honor guard but keep all weapons holstered. Amanda, gather everything you can about human scientific achievements to share with their scientist. Captain, Kate said with concern, what if this is a trap? What if they mean to capture us? Then we learned something new about alien intentions, Lisa replied. But I do not think they see us as a threat. To them, we are probably like children, playing with toys. Dangerous children, maybe, but still children. Maya looked up from her station. Captain, they are requesting permission to dock. They are also transmitting some kind of energy pattern that they say will let us breathe their atmosphere and them breathe ours. Grant permission, and accept their atmospheric adjustment, Lisa ordered. It is time to meet our new neighbors properly. As the Liberty's docking bay opened to receive the elvish shuttle, Lisa felt the strange mix of excitement and terror that came with stepping into the unknown. Humanity had just learned they were not alone in the galaxy, and their new neighbors were so advanced they made human technology look like stone tools. But humans had always been good at learning from their betters, and Lisa had a feeling that these elves, despite their obvious technological superiority, might have something to learn from humanity as well. The trick would be surviving long enough to find out what that might be. Through the bridge windows, she watched the elvish shuttle gracefully enter their docking bay. It was smaller than their main ship, but still twice the size of anything humanity had built. Like everything else elvish, it seemed to glow with its own inner light and moved without any visible means of propulsion. Well, Lisa said to her bridge crew, I guess we are about to make history. Lisa walked through the corridors of the Liberty toward the main docking bay, with her heart beating faster than she wanted to admit. Behind her came Dr. Clark and Commander Sullivan, along with 6 security officers in dress uniforms. The elvish delegation was already aboard and waiting to meet the human leadership face to face. The docking bay doors opened, and Lisa got her first look at the aliens who had been watching humanity for centuries. High Commander Lyrelai Starweaver stood in the center of the bay, surrounded by 5 other elves. Up close, they were even more impressive than they had appeared on the communication screens. Lyrelai was nearly 7 feet tall and moved with a grace that seemed to defy gravity. Her silver hair floated around her head as if she were underwater, and her violet eyes held the weight of centuries. The robes she wore shifted color like liquid starlight and seemed to be made of pure energy rather than any physical material. "Captain Morgan," Lyrelai said with a slight bow that somehow managed to be both respectful and condescending. "Welcome to the larger galaxy. I trust you are prepared for the education you are about to receive." "High Commander," Lisa replied with her own bow. "We are honored by your visit and eager to learn about our new neighbors." Scientist Aliana stepped forward with obvious excitement. "Captain, your ship is even more remarkable up close. The way you have combined such primitive materials to achieve faster than light travel violates several of our fundamental theories about dimensional mechanics." Dr. Clark smiled and moved to stand beside Lisa. "We would be happy to share our research with you. Human science has always progressed through collaboration and the free exchange of ideas." "Free exchange," Serafina said with obvious skepticism. "Humans do not even have a unified world government. How can you speak for your entire species?" Before anyone could answer, the ship's alarms began blaring again. Maya's voice came over the communication system with urgency. "Captain, we have new contacts approaching, multiple large vessels coming out of hyperspace directly toward our position." Lisa felt her stomach drop. "High Commander, are those more of your ships?" Lyrelai's expression changed to one of concern mixed with annoyance. "No, those are not ours. From the energy signatures, I would guess the Zephyrian Collective has decided to investigate your arrival as well." "More aliens," Kate whispered, and Lisa could hear the strain in her security chief's voice. "The Zephyrians are quite different from us," Aliana explained. "They are silicon-based life forms who live in vast collective minds. They tend to view organic species as interesting but inefficient." Maya's voice came through the speakers again. "Captain, the approaching ships are enormous. They appear to be made of some kind of living crystal, and they are transmitting on frequencies I have never seen before." Lyrelai sighed with what sounded like centuries of weariness. "The collective always arrives at the worst possible moment. They have no sense of proper diplomatic timing." The group moved to the nearest observation window where they could see space outside the Liberty. What Lisa saw made her catch her breath. 3 massive ships were approaching that looked more like floating cities than spacecraft. Each one was easily 50 times larger than the Liberty and seemed to be constructed from billions of interconnected crystal formations that pulsed with rainbow-colored light. "How many beings are on those ships?" Amanda asked with scientific curiosity overcoming her nervousness. "Each hive ship contains approximately 50,000 individual Zephyrian minds," Lyrelai replied. "But they all function as components of a larger collective intelligence. Speaking with them is like speaking with 3 versions of the same vast mind." A new voice suddenly filled the docking bay, speaking in harmonious tones that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Greetings, organic entities. This is Prime Coordinator Zara 9 of the Zephyrian Collective First Hive. We have detected the arrival of a previously unknown technological signature and have come to investigate." Lisa looked around confused until she realized the voice was coming from the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Lisa Morgan of the human vessel Liberty. We are pleased to meet you, Prime Coordinator Zara 9. "Humans," the voice said with what might have been interest. "We have observed your homeworld but did not expect you to achieve interstellar travel for at least another 200 of your years. Your development rate is most impressive for an organic species." "They sound almost friendly," Maya whispered to Amanda. Lyrelai shook her head. "The collective judges species entirely on their technological advancement and potential for rapid development. They care nothing for art culture or individual achievement." "Request permission to board your vessel for direct interface," Zara 9 continued. "We would like to examine your propulsion system and evaluate your species for potential inclusion in collective databases." Before Lisa could respond, Serafina stepped forward with her hand on what was clearly a weapon of some kind. "Captain Morgan, you should know that the collective has a habit of absorbing useful technologies into their own systems. They may try to download your ship's computer systems." We offer beneficial trade, Zara 9 said, as if she could hear every word being spoken. Human innovation patterns show promise. Rapid adaptation and creative problem-solving could prove valuable to collective advancement goals. Lisa felt like she was standing in the middle of a conversation between parents discussing their child. Prime Coordinator, we would be honored to meet with your representatives, but we insist on maintaining control of our own technology and ship systems. Acceptable parameters, Zara 9 replied. Sending interface drone for initial contact protocols. Through the observation window, Lisa could see something detaching from the nearest crystal ship. It moved through space without any visible propulsion and seemed to change shape as it approached the Liberty. By the time it reached their docking bay, it had formed itself into something that looked almost like a human woman made of living crystal. "That is not what I expected," Kate said quietly, and Lisa had to agree. The crystal figure entered the docking bay and approached their group, with movements that were perfectly smooth and precise. As it got closer, Lisa could see that it was incredibly detailed, with features that looked almost human, but were clearly artificial. The being's voice came from speakers hidden somewhere in its crystal body. "Greetings, Captain Morgan. I am designated Nix 7 Interface Unit for Prime Coordinator Zara 9. I have been configured to appear in a form that should be comfortable for organic entities to interact with." "Hello, Nix 7, Lisa replied. "We appreciate you taking a form we can relate to." "Your species shows remarkable adaptability," Nix 7 said, while somehow managing to look at all the humans and elves simultaneously. "Achieving dimensional fold travel with chemical propulsion systems demonstrates creative thinking patterns that could benefit collective research goals." Eliana looked fascinated by the crystal being. "How do you maintain individual consciousness while being part of a collective mind? The quantum mechanics alone should make that impossible." "Individual consciousness is inefficient," Nix 7 replied. "We maintain specialized thinking patterns for specific functions, but all knowledge and experience is shared across the collective network. It allows for optimal resource utilization and eliminates redundant research." Dr. Clark shook her head. "But individual thinking is what drives innovation. When everyone thinks the same way, you cannot discover truly new ideas." "Incorrect," Nix 7 said. "Collective thinking eliminates wasted effort and false research directions. All useful ideas are preserved and improved upon by the unified intelligence." Lisa realized she was witnessing a fundamental philosophical disagreement between three completely different approaches to existence. The elves valued tradition and perfection. The Zephyrians valued efficiency and collective advancement. Humans valued individual creativity and constant change. "Prime Coordinator," Lisa said, addressing the air since she assumed Zara 9 could hear everything. "High Commander Lyrelay mentioned something called the Galactic Confluence. Could you explain what that is?" The temperature in the docking bay seemed to drop several degrees, and both the elves and Nix 7 went very still. When Zara 9 spoke again, her harmonic voice carried an edge that had not been there before. "The Galactic Confluence is a loose alliance of species that share this region of space. However, the alliance is currently experiencing significant stress due to an emerging threat that has not been successfully addressed by traditional diplomatic methods." Lyrelay's expression had grown grim. "Captain Morgan, your species has arrived at a very dangerous time in galactic history." The meeting room aboard the Liberty had been hastily converted to accommodate beings who never needed to sit down. High Commander Lyrelay stood near one wall with her robes flowing around her like captured starlight, while Nix 7 remained perfectly motionless in the center of the room like a living statue. Lisa sat at the head of the conference table with her senior officers arranged around her. "The threat we face comes from beyond the galaxy's edge," Lyrelay explained. Her voice carried the weight of ancient fear. "They are called the Void Devourers, and they consume not just matter and energy, but information itself. Entire star systems have been reduced to empty space where nothing ever existed." "Define consumption of information," Dr. Clark asked, with scientific curiosity fighting against obvious concern. Nix 7 spoke without moving her crystal lips. "The Void Devourers erase the quantum information that defines reality. When they consume a planet, it does not just disappear. It becomes as if it never existed at all. No records remain, no memories survive. Even the light that once reflected from that world ceases to exist. Amanda's face went pale. That should be impossible. Information cannot be destroyed according to the laws of physics. It can only be transformed or moved somewhere else. The Void Devourers operate outside known physical laws, Lyrelay said, grimly. Our greatest scientists and the collective's most advanced computations have failed to understand how they accomplish this feat. We only know that they are approaching our region of space, and nothing has been able to stop them. Lisa felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. How long do we have before they arrive? Unknown, Zara 9's voice said from the room's speakers. Void Devourer movement patterns do not follow predictable models. They could arrive tomorrow or in 50 years. However, recent deep space sensor readings suggest they are accelerating their advance. Kate leaned forward in her chair. What has the Galactic Confluence done to prepare for this threat? Serafina, who had been silent until now, spoke with obvious frustration. Nothing useful. The elvish houses want to retreat to our fortress worlds and use ancient defensive magic. The collective believes we should build massive technological weapons. The warrior species want to charge straight at the enemy. Everyone argues, but no one acts. Which is why your arrival presents an interesting opportunity, Lyrelay said, looking directly at Lisa. Humanity represents a fresh perspective unclouded by millennia of failed strategies. However, you must prove that your species deserves a voice in confluence decisions. Prove how? Lisa asked, though she suspected she would not like the answer. Trials of worth, Nix 7 explained. Each major species in the confluence will test human capabilities according to their own standards. Success will grant you membership, and the right to participate in defense planning. Failure will result in your classification as a protected but non-voting species. Amanda looked up from her datapad where she had been taking notes. What kind of trials are we talking about? The elves will test your ability to solve complex problems using limited resources, Lyrelay said. Our magic and technology have merged over millennia into challenges that require both logical thinking and creative intuition. The collective will evaluate your computational and engineering capabilities, Zara 9 added. You will be required to design solutions to theoretical problems using both human methods and technologies we provide. And the warrior trials, Serafina said, with what might have been anticipation. Combat simulations against enemies that have defeated every other species in the confluence. Your tactics and adaptability will be tested against impossible odds. Lisa looked around the table at her officers. Kate was studying the aliens with tactical assessment written on her face. Amanda was practically vibrating with scientific excitement. Maya looked nervous but determined. When do these trials begin? Immediately, Lyrelay replied. Time is a luxury we cannot afford. Your ship will accompany us to the confluence station where the trials are conducted. Other species representatives are already gathering to observe and judge your performance. Over the next several hours, the Liberty followed the Elvish and Zephyrian ships toward what looked like a small moon floating in space. As they got closer, Lisa realized it was actually a massive artificial structure built by multiple species working together. The architecture was a chaotic but beautiful blend of crystal spires, organic curves, and geometric precision. The Nexus Station, Eliana explained over the communication link. Built over 3,000 years ago as a neutral meeting place for all confluent species. The trials will take place in specially designed sections that can simulate any environment or challenge. Dr. Clark had been studying the station through the Liberty's sensors. Captain, the energy patterns are incredible. This station has technology from dozens of different species, all integrated into a single functioning system. It should not be possible, but somehow it works. Adaptive engineering, Maya observed. They took the best ideas from everyone and found ways to make them work together. Lisa felt a spark of hope at Maya's words. That sounds like something humans might be good at. We have always been borrowers and adapters rather than pure inventors. The docking process at Nexus Station took several hours because the Liberty's systems had to be converted to work with Confluence technology. Lisa used the time to prepare her team for whatever was coming. Kate selected the best tactical minds from the security department. Amanda gathered every piece of human scientific knowledge in the ship's computers. Maya prepared communication protocols that could work with dozens of different alien technologies. When they finally disembarked, Lisa got her first look at the incredible diversity of confluent species. The station corridors were filled with beings that looked like walking plants, floating energy fields, and creatures that seemed to be made of living metal. Some moved through the air without touching the ground, while others left trails of light wherever they walked. "Overwhelming," Kate whispered, and Lisa had to agree. A new figure approached them from across the station's main concourse. She appeared to be human at first glance, but as she got closer, Lisa could see subtle differences. Her movements were too precise, and her eyes held a depth that suggested far more than human intelligence. "Welcome to Nexus Station," the figure said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, Human Liaison and Diplomatic Coordinator. I was sent here from Earth 6 months ago when long-range sensors detected this station." Lisa stared in shock. "Earth knows about all this?" Elena smiled grimly. "Earth leadership has known about the confluence for 2 years. Your mission was partly a test to see how humanity would react to first contact without advanced knowledge. The results have been quite impressive according to our alien hosts." "More tests," Amanda muttered, but she was smiling as she said it. "The formal trials begin in 6 hours," Elena continued. "I will brief you on what each species expects and how human capabilities might be best demonstrated. Fair warning, the challenges are designed to be nearly impossible. Most species fail on their first attempt." As they walked through the station toward the human quarters, Lisa felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders again. She was no longer just representing the crew of the Liberty or even Earth's space program. She was representing the entire future of humanity in a galaxy full of wonders and terrors beyond imagination. But looking at her crew and thinking about the human capacity for adaptation and innovation, Lisa felt a strange confidence growing. Humans had always thrived when facing impossible challenges. Maybe it was time to show the galaxy what they could really do when their backs were against the wall. The trials had been running for 3 days, and Lisa could see the exhaustion on her crew's faces. They had successfully completed the elvish puzzle challenges by combining human engineering with alien dimensional technology in ways that surprised even Eliana. The Zephyrian computational tests had pushed Dr. Clark and her team to their limits, but they had managed to create hybrid solutions that impressed even the collective's vast intellect. Now they faced the final challenge, the warrior trials in Dabudao, a massive simulation chamber that could recreate any battle scenario the Confluence had ever encountered. Kate stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing enemy positions and tactical data. Her team of 20 security officers was scattered around the room, working at stations that controlled simulated fleets and armies. "The scenario is the Battle of Karen's Gate," Serafina explained from the observation deck above. "Every confluence species has attempted this simulation, none have succeeded. The enemy forces are based on actual Void Devourer attacks recorded before entire systems were erased from existence." Lisa watched the tactical displays with growing concern. The enemy ships appeared as black voids in space that moved in impossible patterns and seemed to absorb any weapon fired at them. Kate's simulated fleet was already taking heavy casualties despite using the most advanced Confluence weapons and tactics. "They adapt to everything we throw at them," Kate reported with frustration clear in her voice. "Plasma weapons energy beams even dimensional attacks. Nothing seems to damage them at all." "That is why this scenario has never been completed," Lyrale said quietly. "The Void Devourers appear to be immune to all known forms of attack. Our strategists believe the only solution is retreat and defensive positioning." Amanda was studying the enemy movement patterns on her own display. "Captain, their ships are not following any tactical doctrine I recognize. They move more like a swarm than a military formation." "Natural behavior patterns," Nick 7 observed. "Void Devourers do not appear to be artificial constructs, but rather some form of evolved predator species." Lisa felt something click in her mind. "Kate, stop trying to fight them like ships. Treat them like animals. What do you do when facing a swarm of dangerous animals?" Kate's eyes widened with understanding. "You do not try to kill them all. You disrupt their behavior patterns." She began typing rapidly at her command station. "All units switch to area. Denial weapons. Create barriers and obstacles instead of trying to score direct hits." The simulation changed as Kate's fleet stopped trying to destroy the Void ships and started creating fields of debris and energy barriers. The enemy swarm began to break apart as individual ships had to navigate around obstacles rather than flowing together as a unified mass. "Ingenious," Serafina said with obvious admiration. "Use their pack instincts against them by breaking up their formation coherence." But even as Kate's tactics began to show results, the simulation chamber suddenly filled with alarms. The holographic displays flickered and went dark before restarting with completely different readings. Ambassador Elena's voice came over the communication system with barely controlled panic. "All personnel to emergency stations. We have real Void Devourer contacts approaching the station. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Lisa felt her blood turn to ice. The trials were forgotten as everyone rushed to the observation windows to look out into space. What she saw defied description. A section of space near the station had become completely black, not just empty, but wrong somehow. Looking at it made her eyes water and her mind reject what she was seeing. Void Herald-class entity, Zara 9's voice announced with harmonics that conveyed desperation across multiple frequencies. "All Confluence fleets are engaging, but weapons have no effect. Estimated time until station consumption is 47 minutes. Through the station's communication system, Lisa could hear reports from ships across the system. Elvish dimensional weapons were being absorbed without effect. Zephyrian energy beams simply vanished when they touched the void. Even the massive fortress ships of the warrior species were being consumed like they were made of paper. "The silence," Maya whispered, and Lisa realized what she meant. The same eerie quiet that had fallen over the Liberty when they first arrived was spreading through space around the station. Communications were failing. Sensors were going dark. The void was not just consuming matter, but information itself. "Captain," Amanda said urgently, "if this entity erases information, how are we still able to remember the star systems it has already consumed? We should not have any records of them at all." Lisa's mind raced through the implications. "Because it has not finished the job yet. This is just the first stage of the attack." Eliana appeared on a communication screen with her usually perfect composure completely shattered. "Captain Morgan, the Eternal Grace is losing systems. Our dimensional shields are failing and we cannot retreat to hyperspace. The void field is expanding too rapidly." "All ships converge on Nexus Station," Lisa ordered, even though she had no authority to command Confluence forces. "We need to combine everything we have learned from the trials." "Human Captain?" Serafina's voice came from somewhere in the station. "What are you thinking? Our weapons cannot harm these entities." "We are not trying to destroy it," Lisa replied as understanding crystallized in her mind. "We are going to disrupt it. Amanda, can you modify our dimensional fold drive to create space distortions instead of travel corridors?" "Theoretically, yes, but it would burn out the entire drive system," Amanda replied. "And I have no idea what effect it would have on a Void Devourer. Kate, can you coordinate fleet movements to funnel the entity into a specific location? Give me 5 minutes and tactical control of every ship in the system," Kate responded, with the confidence of someone who had just figured out how to hunt the ultimate predator. "Nix 7, can the collective provide computational support for real time coordination between dozens of different ship types?" "Processing," the crystal being replied. "Affirmative. Establishing network links with all Confluence vessels." Lisa turned to the observation window, where she could see the black void growing larger and more terrible with each passing moment. "Lyra Lee, can Elvish dimensional magic create stable anchor points in normal space?" "Untested but possible," came the reply. "Captain, what are you planning?" "We are going to do what humans do best," Lisa said, as the pieces of the plan fell into place in her mind. "We are going to take ideas that should not work together and make them work anyway." The next 30 minutes were chaos as ships from across the system converged on Nexus Station. Human technical crews worked alongside Elvish mages and Zephyrian computational networks to merge technologies that had never been designed to interact. The Liberty's engineering teams performed modifications that would have taken months under normal circumstances. When Kate gave the signal, every ship in the improvised fleet moved in perfect coordination. Elvish vessels created dimensional anchor points, while Zephyrian ships provided targeting data updated in real time. The Liberty and the few other human ships present acted as mobile coordinators, maintaining communication between allies who had never successfully worked together before. The Void Herald found itself channeled into a corridor of space where human dimensional technology was waiting. When Amanda activated the modified fold drive, the effect was spectacular and terrifying. Space itself twisted into impossible geometries, and the Void entity was caught in a dimensional storm that it could not absorb or escape. For a moment that stretched into eternity, the Void presence writhed in the twisted space, unable to consume what it could not properly touch. Then, with a sound like reality tearing, the entity vanished, leaving behind only normal empty space and the memory of terror. The silence that had been spreading across the system lifted all at once. Communications returned, sensors came back online, and for the first time in galactic history, a Void Devourer had been forced to retreat. In the aftermath, as rescue ships collected damaged vessels and medical teams treated the wounded, Lisa found herself standing in the Nexus Station's central command chamber, surrounded by representatives from every species in the confluence. The trials were officially over, and humanity had passed in ways no one had expected. "Captain Morgan," High Commander Lyrali said formally, "on behalf of the Galactic Confluence, I hereby grant humanity full membership status and invite you to take joint command of our defense preparations." Lisa looked around at the assembled aliens and realized that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy, and the galaxy had just learned that even the most terrible threats could be defeated when different perspectives worked together toward a common goal. The real war against the Void Devourers was just beginning, but for the first time in millennia, the Confluence had hope that they might actually win.